Probably in Acapulco. We got hit by the tail end of a hurricane, and it was raining for about a week. Our mission president had us get a bunch of supplies to prepare for it. It knocked out the bridge between Acapulco and another place, and then it knocked out the tunnels, so we had no contact with anything outside of Acapulco, knocked out the cell phone towers, internet. So it was really interesting to go through that, you know. One, I got better at the piano because there are very few piano players down in Mexico. Two, I learned how to solve a Rubik's Cube. P-days, you know. And then they've got little tops called trompos that you wrap around. It's like an old-fashioned top where you wrap around the string and then you toss it. You can do a bunch of tricks. I can't do a bunch of tricks. I just learned how to throw it. So that's my random skill. There was one time when there was this crazy dog. It's not even a great story. There was a crazy dog in an alleyway, and so I got scared, and I was like, Elder, let's stop going through that alleyway. So we stopped going through that alleyway. One time I had a grasshopper quesadilla. I saw it on the menu, and I was like, I'm going to try something crazy. So I had that grasshopper quesadilla. They had, you know, legs and antenna and everything. So it was like the whole grasshopper just like fried. They took a bunch of grasshoppers, fried them, and then threw them on a quesadilla. It was like crunchy beef jerky. That's what it tasted like. It was like pretty salty. But yeah, it was good. It was good. The worst was the texture, you know, getting the antenna stuck in your teeth. That was the worst part. just one time, in one of my areas, like this is like, it didn't happen much. Actually, it never happened. This is the only time it happened to me. But we were waiting for what they have called a combi, which is like a small van that it's like public transportation. I'm just going to say that again. It's a small van, and we were waiting for it to get back to where we lived. And we were kind of sitting on this jungle gym because there was like nobody around but a group of drunk people. And we were just waiting, and one of the drunk guys like started to stray off from the group and walk towards us. And he was kind of swaying back and forth. You could tell he was like really inebriated and just couldn't walk straight. And my companion, he was a Peruvian, he's like, he's gonna fall over. And the guy like started leaning and like just about fell down, stood back up, and then fell down the other way. And my companion was like, hey, this is so funny, you know. And then the guy like sits up, and he's like, this whole time he's like mumbling something at us that I can't understand. And then he pulls a sawed-off shotgun out of his pants, like it was in his pant leg, and he pulls it out and he cocks it. And like at that moment I was like, oh my gosh. And I started like slowly moving behind the jungle gym, and my companion just like, he was sitting on a swing and he just stopped. And I was like, oh my gosh, like what if he fires on us? And he's sitting there trying to aim, but he's like so drunk that he can't lift it up. And then luckily one of his drunk friends from the group turns around and sees him like with his gun out, comes up and like kicks him. He's like, put that away. And so he puts it back in his pants, and the guy dragged him off to the side of the road, and the guy just passed out. But that was the only time I ever had a gun pulled on me. And it was just like really random too. Like it was just this drunk guy, for some reason, just wanted to threaten the missionaries. Definitely bring a good raincoat and a good umbrella. I didn't find out until I was there that neither my raincoat nor my umbrella were good, and I got soaking wet. Because even in the dry areas, when it's rainy season, it's rainy season. And it'll rain a lot more than it does in Utah. With one of my companions, like we didn't get along very well. I didn't understand the language too well. He was a local, he was Mexican. And So I felt like really alone. And like one moment, like I went into the other room and cried because I just felt so alone with him. And after like praying a lot, and even months later, I realized that the biggest problem behind that was because I was focusing on myself and like what I thought of me being a missionary. Like, oh, am I a good missionary or not? Like, the real solution behind that is to just not even worry about that, like, oh, what means I'm a good missionary, but just be a good missionary. Just go out and do what you know you should do, and don't even worry about like your image or like how you were perceived by others, or even how you perceive yourself. Don't worry about yourself. The Lord will take care of you. Just worry about others and love them. I mean, in one of my areas, we'd been working really hard and, praying really hard that we would find somebody. I always wanted one of those, what I call Liahona moments. The stories that are in the Liahona where like you're walking down the street and then you hear like, oh, go down a few blocks, turn to the right, and then go down 2 blocks, turn to the left, and it's going to be the 3rd door on the right, and you knock on the door and a family comes out and they're like, we're waiting for you. I always wanted one of those moments. And so like I feel like if you only expect those kinds of miracles, you'll kind of miss the small miracles. But anyway, we were fasting and praying for this to happen, for us to just be like led directly to somebody who's prepared. And we fasted. We were fasting over it one day at church. We got to church early, and this member who wasn't from our branch just popped her head in. She was like, when does church start? We were like, whoa, in like 10 minutes. They're like, oh, we've got an investigator here. And so we come out, and these 2 girls who were from Mexico City had brought this guy that lived in our area to church. And they'd been bringing him to church up in Mexico City for like months. And he wanted to get baptized, but he couldn't get baptized up there because he lived in our area. He got baptized, and he was actually one of the strongest members in that branch. He later moved up to Mexico City, but so I don't know where he is now. Lost contact with him, but it was just interesting to see the Lord say, you know what, like it's great that you want to go find somebody, but the Lord knows what's best for his children, and he is in control. And to kind of see, not my will, but the Lord's being done, and not for my glory, but because this guy was ready to get baptized, and he was ready to have the companionship of the Holy Ghost in his life. He was also, within a few weeks, ready to have the priesthood. It was just a tender mercy. It was a miracle.